Ray's father-in-law lowered himself into the armchair on Sunday afternoon with both hands on the armrests, a kind of controlled collapse, and a sound that was not quite a groan but was definitely heading that way. Ray watched it, said nothing, looked back at his tea. His wife was on her phone. The kids were somewhere upstairs doing whatever kids do when they disappear. The room was quiet and ordinary, and nobody commented on what had just happened. Because nobody ever does. Because it is the sort of thing you watch and file away and don't quite name. Ray is 47. His father-in-law is 79. And something in that moment registered. Not fear exactly, more like a question, a quiet one, with no particular urgency. Not yet. Before I go further, I've got 2 boys, and the honest reason I make these videos is that I kept thinking about all the things I wish someone had just told me earlier. Not lectured me, just sat down with me and said, here is how this actually works, before you find out the expensive way, or the slow way, or the way where you look up one day and realise you have been quietly building the wrong thing for 20 years without noticing. That is what this is. Me, trying to give them a version of that conversation. If it's useful to anyone else along the way, good. Now, Ray. Ray is fine. That is genuinely the word he would use. He has not had anything specifically wrong with him in years, which he interprets as evidence of excellent health, rather than evidence that he hasn't been paying particularly close attention. He has a bad knee he has been meaning to get looked at since, and I am not exaggerating here. 2019. It is manageable. It is always about to get looked at. The appointment will be made when things calm down a bit. Things have not calmed down. He works in middle management for a building supplies company. He drives a lot. He sits at a desk a lot. He takes his kids to football on Saturdays. He means to go for walks. He had his trainers on last Tuesday and was absolutely going. And then he sat down for 5 minutes first, and you know how that ends. It is not a character flaw. It is a chair that was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He takes the lift at work, not out of laziness, but because the stairs are genuinely on the other side of the building and he has got his bag. This is a perfectly rational decision. This is also, it turns out, how it starts. I want you to meet 2 men. Both are 80. Both started from more or less the same place. Same generation, same sort of life, same bodies in their 40s, same intentions they meant to get around to. The first one walks to the postbox on a Tuesday morning. Slowly, he is 80, not a sprinter, but he walks there. On the way back, his neighbour's cat is sitting on the wall and he stops and gives it a scratch behind the ears and carries on. Later that afternoon, he is at his granddaughter's birthday party. She is 4. She wants to build something with the big foam bricks on the living room floor, and he gets down there with her. She hasn't noticed anything remarkable about this. She is focused on the bricks. He is just Grandad. That is entirely the point. The second man is not in hospital. I want to be clear about that because this is not a story about catastrophe. He is at home. He is in his chair. His daughter visits on Thursdays. She means to visit more often. She visits on Thursdays. He watches things on television and he is glad when she comes. And the days are not bad, exactly. They are just small, smaller than they used to be. The world has contracted, slowly, quietly, to the size of what he can reach from the chair. He's not in hospital. He's just in the chair. So here is the question Ray had at the kitchen table. The one that was forming slowly over his mug of tea. When did those 2 men separate? What was the moment? Was there a moment? Because if you look at both of them at 47, and this is the thing, they are indistinguishable. Same weight, more or less. Same job, more or less. Same bad knee. Same walk they were going to go on. Same diet that was going to get sorted after Christmas. Then after the birthday. Then after the holiday. Then after Christmas again. The calendar, it has to be said, is extremely poorly designed for starting things. There was no moment. That is the delayed answer to the question. And it is the bit that should make you put your mug down. There was no dramatic turning point. No diagnosis that sent one man to the gym and left the other man on the sofa. No clear fork in the road where a sensible choice was available, and one man took it and one man didn't. Nobody drifts into the version they wanted. What happened was arithmetic. One man kept choosing the slightly easier option, consistently, across thousands of ordinary days. Not dramatically, not lazily, just consistently. And the other man kept choosing the slightly harder one. The stairs rather than the lift. Not every time, but more often than not. A walk with a destination. Lifting something heavy a few times a week, not to be impressive, just to remind his body what it was for. Neither man noticed he was doing it. Both men were just getting through the week, but the body was paying attention. The body learns. That is the part we don't think about in our 40s because our bodies are still largely doing what we ask. Sitting for 10 hours a day teaches it something. Moving every day teaches it something else. Neither lesson announces itself. Both compound. By 60, Ray is fine. He would still say, fine. A bit stiffer than he used to be. The knee never got sorted. There was always something on. He stopped being particularly careful about food because it was too much of a project. And then there was Christmas. And then there was life. He is functional. He can do what he needs to do. He would say, fine, and it would be almost true. And the trajectory would be almost set. And at 80, there are 2 granddaughters on a Sunday afternoon. One granddad is in the garden with her. She is 4 or 6 or 8, it doesn't matter. She is a child and she wants someone to come outside, and he goes outside. He is not particularly graceful about it. He moves slowly, but he moves. The other granddad watches from the window, not because he doesn't want to be out there, because the garden has steps, and his balance isn't what it was, and it's easier, honestly, it's just easier to watch. The little girl doesn't understand why Grandad can't come outside. She doesn't ask. She just goes outside. That Sunday afternoon. That is the cost. Not a medical chart, not a statistic. A child in a garden and a man at a window, and the distance between them is 30 years of Tuesday mornings. Your 80-year-old body is under construction. Now, the practical bit. And I want to say this carefully because I am not here to give anyone a fitness program. I am not qualified to do that, and I would not trust anyone who made it sound exciting. The things that actually build the better version are so undramatic they barely deserve to be called advice. Walk somewhere every day. Not a workout, just walk somewhere with a destination. A post box, a shop. It does not matter. The destination is not the point. The going is the point. Get up from the floor regularly. Not as exercise, just make it a habit now before it becomes a test. Get down there and come back up a few times a week for no reason, just because it is good to be the kind of man who can. Eat mostly ordinary food, mostly at mealtimes. That is genuinely most of the work. Not a diet, not a program. Just not constantly and not endlessly, and mostly real things. Lift something heavy a few times a week. Not to be impressive, to remind your body what it is made for. And get the knee looked at. Whatever the thing is for you, the thing you've been managing, the thing that is always about to get sorted, get it looked at. Ignoring a slow problem does not make it a non-problem. It just means the problem gets to work in peace. None of this is heroic. That is the point. The man in the garden at his granddaughter's birthday party did not get there through heroism. He got there through Tuesday mornings. Freedom at 80 is built today. Freedom at 80, as it turns out, is not about money or retirement or any of the things we spend the most energy thinking about in our 40s. It is the freedom to carry your own shopping, to walk upstairs without thinking about the rail, to get on the floor with a small person who has absolutely no patience for a man who can't get up, because she is 4 and the bricks are right there. That is what you are building or spending right now, today, in the small, ordinary choices that don't feel like choices because they are too small to notice. Boys, if you take one thing from this, let it be this. The man I am at 80 is being built by the man I am today. I am not trying to be impressive about it. I am just trying to be the kind of grandfather who sits on the floor. Ray is still at the kitchen table. Sunday morning. Same mug, same quiet house. His father-in-law is in the next room. The question he had earlier is still there, but it has changed shape. It is no longer vague. It is specific. He puts the mug down. He stands up. He doesn't announce it to anyone. There is no one to announce it to. He just stands up. What he does next is not Ray's story. That part is yours.